Hey guys! So I am on here today on our group, and I am going to be having our guest, Shelly Longnecker, and she is the author of a brand new book, Dinner for a Dollar. Yes, you heard that right. Dinner for $1 per person per meal, which is super exciting. And she is going to teach us how to do some recipe free cooking today. So, hey Leanna, good to see you here. So I am just waiting for Shelly to pop on here, and hopefully I can invite her on and we can get her going. So just give us a second. So Leanna, oh, here we go. Let me try to bring her on. Hey Carrie, good to see you. Okay, adding Shelly here now. It's adding. I'm so excited. I hope this works. Yay! Hi, Shelly. How are you?
There. I'm great. How are you doing?
Awesome. Thank you. So I am
Good.
going to, I was kind of telling everybody just a tad about you today, but I am happy to let you take over.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for getting me on. I did actually realize what mistake I made, so
Mhm.
but I appreciate you bringing me on. Thank you. Well, hello everyone, and thank you, Laura, for having me. I can't tell you how grateful I am to be here, and thank you for understanding me needing to reschedule.
Yes. How's your daughter
I know you
doing? Is
all
she
know.
okay?
You, she's doing great. We think we figured out what caused the anaphylactic response,
Mhm.
so that was exciting. We've never had anaphylaxis in our house, so that was my first experience.
Oh,
I don't really recommend it.
no, no, that's super scary. I'm so glad that she's okay now. Yeah, we were
Yeah,
all thinking and praying for you
she's doing
also.
great. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So I'll just share a little bit about my story and what connects me to all of you. We have in our home, we have three autoimmune diseases and a whole host of food
Mhm.
allergies. And through a lot of factors, one of those being diet and
Mhm.
lifestyle
Mhm.
and stress management and good care providers and God's blessing in our life. Two of those autoimmune diseases we've been able to turn
Wow.
around. One of them, I mean, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 24,
Wow.
and I was a competitive athlete at the time, and I went from competing to I couldn't even dress myself,
Like,
like
yeah.
that. And today, here I am 44, so 20 years
Mhm.
later, and I am 100% symptom free of rheumatoid arthritis.
Mhm.
Um, I fought it for years. I mean, I worked at it for
Mhm.
years. And then it sort of like laid dormant for years. And if I didn't follow lifestyle,
Mhm.
stress, my care plan, it would flare up. And now it never flares up. It's like it went away. And I recently had a bunch of blood work drawn for life insurance,
Mhm.
and there's absolutely nothing in
Wow,
my
that's so
system.
awesome.
Um, yeah. So we know, so that's my story. And then we have a son who is actually the reason I wrote the
Mhm.
book. He was diagnosed with food allergies 10 years
Mhm.
ago and with an autoimmune disease of his esophagus, where have you heard of eosinophilic
Yes.
esophagitis? Um, he was vomiting 25 times a day. He was 3 or 4 years old. He had asthma. He had asthma,
Mhm.
which he doesn't
Yeah.
have. And he had started to lose the ability to swallow food.
Gosh.
And so we were pulling food out of his mouth, and he was about to be put on a feeding tube when we found out what his disease
Uh-huh.
was, and then we found out his allergies. At the time, he was allergic to
Mhm.
everything because I'm sure his immune system was just
Right, right.
overwhelmed. And so, yeah, we went on a squeaky clean diet,
Mhm.
um, meat, fruits, and vegetables
Mhm.
only, for a long
Mhm.
time. And 10 years later, he is completely medication free, which I only learned this year is totally rare for someone to have had EE for 10
Mm-hmm.
years and be completely off medicine. He hasn't seen a doctor in probably 7 years, maybe
Wow.
8.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
he did have to go on medication for two
Mm-hmm.
years or a year or so, both like homeopathic, naturopathic, and allopathic all
Mm-hmm.
together. We did like a very holistic approach. And so if he ignores his
Mm-hmm.
condition, which he's
Yeah.
15, so he's learning,
Right.
when he ignores his condition, he has
Mm-hmm.
flare-ups. So he's not where I'm
Mm-hmm.
at, where I consider myself really, I mean, I don't want to use the word cured, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have
Wow.
rheumatoid arthritis anymore. It's nowhere in my body. So he still has his, it's there,
Mm-hmm.
and he has to manage it, which he does a great job of part of the time and a terrible job of other times. But he's becoming a young man. So I told him, it's your body. You've got to find what you're going to
Right.
do. So Danielle says your husband he has EOE. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's a challenging disease. And learning about it is really important because the symptoms come about 3 days after you eat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an immediate reaction. So it makes it really difficult for somebody who isn't really serious about managing their own health because you can eat something and be fine,
Mm-hmm.
and then 3 days later you're having symptoms. So that's what I would call one of the most frustrating things
Yeah.
specifically about EOE. But
Mm-hmm.
um, and then our daughter, 17, she has a disease that they are now considering autoimmune. They're right at the verge of calling it
Mm-hmm.
autoimmune. We've all known for years that it is
Yep.
autoimmune, but scientists have to wait until it's proven.
Mm-hmm.
And hers is it's moderately
Mm-hmm.
managed, poorly managed, decent at times. We have not been able to um, completely control that. So that
Mm-hmm.
has been challenging, but she's 17 and she does not, she has not made a choice to completely take control of her
Wow.
health.
Got it.
So that is, she has not chosen, she got sick when she was 14. She was completely well and then completely sick like that. And, completely, she missed almost a year of high school and very, very
That's a
ill.
hard age too,
Her autonomic,
just in general. Yeah.
yes, very
So
hard
to put
age.
extra challenges on.
Lots of, yes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yep. She did come to me last week and said, Mom, I'm serious. I want to take control of my health. And I'm like,
Yes, that's
yes.
awesome. Good luck. I hope she's
So,
serious. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I do too. So I have experience with
Yes.
autoimmune disease. I have experience with making the choices to take control of my own health and also understanding that some of it is out of our
Right.
control. Sometimes, even if we make the very best choices,
Mm-hmm.
it's bigger than we are and we can't turn it around. But I have learned that I can always do something that will
Right.
help. And maybe that's
Yes.
resting or, you know, uh, much of what I've learned in my own journey is the ability to
Mm-hmm.
rest. And I saw that you posted that last week. You said something like, what's one thing I can do today that I know will make
Yep.
myself feel better? And someone had posted, get back in bed. And, I appreciated that
Mhm.
because I know I no longer push through illness. I don't. When I'm ill, I
Mhm.
stop. And I don't apologize for a full day of Netflix. And, you know, because there's only one
Mhm.
me, there's only one
Yep.
you, and we have to take care of
Mhm.
that. Or especially if we have an autoimmune disease, there's just not that margin
Mhm.
to screw up
Yep.
and ignore our health like some people may have right now.
Mhm.
So that's our story. And what led me to write Dinner for a Dollar is when my son was diagnosed, he was four
Mhm.
ish or five. And we had to remove a million allergens from our diet. I was not aware of the AIP diet
Right.
then. In fact, we've never strictly followed an AIP diet because we've always had nightshades. I didn't even know that was a thing until like 2 years
Uh-huh.
ago. So, so I my mentions will include we currently, and I'll talk a little bit about what our current diet
Mhm.
is, which is not AIP, but my dinner for $1 is very, very AIP friendly, and I'm going to cover that today. Um, but when we first started out, we were using I when we got our allergy testing, I showed him to my husband, and the first thing he said was, "Well, I guess I'm gonna have to find a way to make more money to afford our food."
Yeah.
And he did. He went out and got extra work, and our food budget ballooned to $2,000 a
Wow.
month for groceries and eating out
Mhm.
for a family of four. We're now a family of six.
Mhm.
Um, Partly because I believed the myth that in order to feed my family safe food, I had to spend a lot of
Mhm.
money. And I didn't even read anything on how to save money on food because I just assumed everybody writing money about saving money on food was feeding their family hamburger helper with coupons cut from Sunday's
Yep.
paper. And I just I just fed what I wanted to feed everybody, and um anyway,
Mhm.
our food budget was
Yes, I
crazy.
understand that.
And some
Mhm.
I'm sure
Yep.
you do. And I think probably anyone listening to this has gone through that phase, or they're currently in that phase where their food bill is more than they can
Mhm.
responsibly
Right.
sustain. And, we never went into debt, but we weren't saving for
Mhm.
retirement. We weren't putting aside money for savings. And so when emergencies came, we had to scramble.
Mhm.
And um, 5 years ago or so, we decided to change our financial story. We wanted to have savings. We're self-employed. We have 4 kids. We were tired of just financial
Right.
stress. And so the first area I looked at was our food bill. And I told my husband, I said, I refuse to feed our family garbage to save
Mhm.
money. I know that food has the power to hurt or heal. And I'm not going to temporarily help us save money and make us all sick in the
Right.
process. Like, that doesn't make any
No.
sense. So I said, I'm willing to study how to save money on our food bill
Mhm.
if I can do it where we're still eating clean
Yep.
food. And so I went on a year. I took an entire year and studied how to lower our food bill.
Mhm.
And in that time frame, I changed. I mean, I was really serious about my food habits. And in that time frame, over the course of a year to two, I changed pretty much every food habit we have while still eating the diet we needed to
Mhm.
eat. And so I'll just tell you the diet that we eat right now is almost all of our meals are comprised of a
Mhm.
protein, a
Yep.
starch, two
Mhm.
veggies, and a healthy fat.
Perfect.
Um, I use that as our blend. And now in our life, we do have potatoes and we do have
Mhm.
rice because right now everyone in our life can eat
Uh-huh.
that. And and I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk any more about that because I know that you all are probably missing
Mhm.
rice and potatoes, and I'm sorry. But I am here to tell you that there may be a day when you can't add them back into your life. I don't
Mhm.
know. I wasn't able, we couldn't for a long time, and now we can. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. Um, I, so I was able to feed our family for $1 per person on that through changing a million of my food habits. And I basically took that whole system and put it in a book to share with other people who might be where I was at. Where, I mean, I remember crying in the grocery
Mhm.
store, and I don't know if you've ever done that. I mean, or if you literally stand there. And I still remember this day standing in the grocery store, and it felt like the whole grocery store was like swirling around me,
Mhm.
and I was like, I don't know how to feed my
Yeah.
family in an affordable way, in a way that we need to eat.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, so today I'm going to teach you specifically how I feed my family without
Love it.
recipes. So, recipe-free
Love
cooking.
it.
It's one of my favorite things, and I love to teach it to people because, first of all, when you cook without recipes, let me tell you why you want to start cooking without recipes, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to tell you
Okay.
how. So don't be thinking, if I'm not cooking with recipes, then what am I going to feed my family? I'm going to tell you how to do
Awesome.
that. But why I like cooking without recipes, and I do still use recipes, but number one reason is it helps me save money.
Mm-hmm.
So here's why. So let's say that I see a recipe for flank steak spinach salad. Okay. That sounds so good. I love flank steak. I love
Yep.
spinach. We love salad. We have 6 people in our family. 5 of the 6 of us would eat that. The sixth one is he hasn't decided to like healthy food yet. He's poor thing,
Mm-hmm.
poor boy. So I go to the store and I buy everything for flank steak spinach salad.
Mm-hmm.
And spinach isn't on sale, and oranges are out of season. I need them for the marinade, and I don't have the spices. And all of a sudden, I just spent $30
Mm-hmm.
making flank steak spinach
Yep.
salad. And I have done that like probably 100
Yep.
times. And I'm sure you're
Me
nodding, you
too.
probably have too. You see this fantastic recipe, it meets your food
Yep.
goals, and your family will love it. So you go out and you buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And $30 later, you have one meal to feed your
Yep. Yep.
family.
You buy all these spices that you're not going to use again, or yeah.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And so when you cook without recipes, which I'm going to teach you in a minute how to do, you are avoiding the flank steak spinach salad story, the $30 flank steak spinach salad.
Mm-hmm.
And, but you still get to have salad. You just have it with what you're able to source inexpensively. So that's the number one reason. Number two reason is it helps you reduce
Mm-hmm.
waste. So in your fridge right now, almost anybody I could just about predict has 2 or 3 things you could put together to turn into a meal if you just kind of opened your mind a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and use the method that I'm going to show you in a minute. Well, if you are only cooking with recipes, then those 2 or 3 items that you have in your fridge right now, you may not end up using
Right.
them and you end up throwing them out.
Mm-hmm.
So, food waste is a huge problem, not just environmentally, which it is a huge problem for the environment, but financially, it is a astronomical problem. The average American is throwing away 25% of the food or drinks that they buy every
Wow.
week at an average cost of $133 a month.
Wow.
So if, and I know everyone here is exceptional,
Mm-hmm.
you're exceptional, I'm exceptional, but somebody out there is average and they're throwing away $133 a month of food. Now, when I sat down and evaluated my life, my food life, from a financial standpoint, accepting the amount of food waste was actually really hard for me. I didn't want to accept it, but I was easily throwing away $133 a month of food.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you cook without recipes, you are reducing your food waste because you're finding ways to use what you already have sourced in your
Right.
fridge. Um, And the third thing that I love about cooking without recipes is it helps save energy. Because you're using what you already have,
Mm-hmm.
you are reducing the amount of energy you're spending on food. So for me, my 3 biggest goals for food are saving time, money, and energy
Yes.
while meeting my food needs for my family. I Back in the day when I was spending $2,000 a month on food, the reason our food bill is so high is because we ate out all the time because I was cooking such complicated dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I stepped in, I was spending 2 to 3 hours a day in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I was cooking everything from scratch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it wasn't that time and energy wasn't sustainable for me. And so we were eating out because I was tired. And so saving energy on food is actually super important because the less time and energy you spend on food, the more often you're going to be cooking and the better you're going to be hitting your food goals and not relying on convenience foods, or drive through or takeout or other thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everyone has to
Right.
eat. And if you're not taking care of that in a time and energy efficient way, you're going to make bad food choices
Mm-hmm.
because you have to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so I've talked about why eating without recipes is so important to me. It saves time, money, and
Yep.
energy. So if you're not going to cook with a recipe, how are you going to know what to cook your family? So there are 2 steps to figuring out how to cook without a recipe. And the first step is to determine your food
Okay.
values. Okay, so food values is sort of a phrase I made up. I don't know, it might exist out there, but I love it because every home has a different set of food values. Um, and that's what I love about my book is it actually works with anyone's food values. So our food values, I'll just cover them and then I'm going to have Laura share hers. Our food values are our food needs to be simple. We have 4 children, they're all in school, we run 2 businesses. I can't be spending 2 to 3 hours a day in the kitchen. Our food needs to be whole food. It needs to be allergy free, it needs to be veggie forward, and it needs to be frugal. So those are my 5 food values: simple, allergy free, whole food, veggie forward, and frugal. All of those are important to me. And sometimes I can make a meal that doesn't hit maybe all 5 of those, but in general, those are the goals that I have with the food in our family. Now, those of you, everyone here who's following AIP, your food values are going to be probably just a little bit different than mine. And so I would love for Laura to share what her food values are so that that can help you as you're developing your way of cooking without
Mm-hmm.
recipes.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to share. So that wasn't a concept that I was familiar with either until I read the chapter in your book, which was just awesome and I loved it. And I'm like, this goes along exactly with AIP and the things that we need to be thinking about too. So my after I thought about it, being simple is definitely one of my whole business name is simply AIP, because just trying to keep
Right.
things as simple as possible because like you said, the time and the energy is so important, especially when you're not
Yep.
feeling well. So it definitely needs to be simple for me. So that's a big one. Um, Another one for me is convenience, because I do have 2 little kids and, running 2 businesses and, so I need to be able to get the food from, the grocery store that's convenient for me, or
Yep.
online usually. I mean, occasionally I'll go to Trader Joe's, but I need it. I can't be going around to all the like Asian markets and whatever and getting all these unique things. I need something that just
Right.
easily fits into my day. So convenience is huge for me. I also need
Yeah.
to, and not hit it with every single thing, but I need a lot of things that are kid friendly too, because 2 little ones. So that is
Yep.
important, but not necessarily for every single meal because sometimes they eat something a little bit different. Um, so that's a big one. Um, and what was the other one? I mean, definitely keeping the budget lower is important, but it's not as big as the other ones, I don't think.
Yep.
I also have to be careful with chopping because I get a lot of pain in my hands sometimes, especially when I do a lot of
Yep.
chopping. So my husband can help me with some of that. But if I'm going to be making a recipe, just on my own, I have to be careful with that. So that's something important for me to
Yep.
think about when I'm thinking about what I'm going to cook for dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, the biggest one
Well,
is
and
that
I
it's AIP.
AIP.
That's a huge
Right.
value. If
I was going to
if
mention
it's
that.
not AIP, I'm not gonna buy it. At least if it's food for me. My husband and kids aren't strict on that. I feed them other things
Yeah.
on this. The main meal will be AIP, but then they might have rice with it or a piece of bread or
Right.
something. But my food has to be like I just don't buy it if it's not within the AIP.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're listening, I'm sure that as you heard Laura and myself talk about our food values, you can see how those values sort of tell you what to cook. Now they don't tell you specifically, but you can see how they're the building blocks or the foundation of what you're going to
Right.
cook. Sort of like our values in our life. Like if you value integrity, let's say you're not going to lie on your taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, so integrity made your tax decision already.
Right.
I have integrity, so I'm not lying on my taxes.
Right.
I eat AIP, so I'm not having potatoes.
Right.
Okay, so that your food values make a lot of your decisions ahead of you so that you're not having to make so many decisions all the
Yeah.
time. Um, so now, the second step of how to cook without recipes is you take those food values and then you turn them into what I call an equation. And so a food equation. So instead of cooking with recipes, I like to teach people to think of food in terms of an equation. And so I shared mine earlier, and I'll just share it again real quickly. I have a protein, a starch, two veggies, a healthy fat, and some sort of seasoning. Um, and that's how we form almost all of our meals. So my food values determined my food equation, and then I take that food equation and I can mix anything into that. So when I go back to the flank steak spinach salad
Uh-huh.
story, the $30 salad, let's say I saw that recipe and I'm like, man, that looks really
Mm-hmm.
good, and I see that all those ingredients are coming in inexpensively, then I need to look at what can I sub out of that equation with food that I'm able to source inexpensively or more
Mm-hmm.
inexpensively. And so, anyway, so that's how I use my food equations to create a recipe. And I'll talk about that further in a minute, but I would love for you to share what your food equations look like.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, it's actually extremely similar to what you said, which is why I was like nodding my head the whole time. We have a protein, which because it's AIP, that's pretty much animal like meat. We
Yeah,
have I usually have two vegetables. My family often only has one, but I usually have two on my plate.
yeah,
I have a starch, which for me it's usually a baked sweet potato because that's just my favorite. But there are several other
yeah.
starches I eat, but that's my go-to. Um, and oh yeah, the healthy fat definitely. Um, I have healthy fat a lot of times on my roasted vegetables. And seasonings on that as well. So, I mean, almost exactly
Yeah.
yours, to be honest with you, which I
Okay.
totally was nodding my head when you said that. So, mm-hmm.
Right. And so probably just our starches in the way that our
Yes.
worlds operate, probably just our starches are
Right.
different, and possibly our marinades, because I do my marinades are not, I mean, a lot of them I make myself, but a lot of them I don't, and they're not strict
Right.
AIP. But um so okay, so we take this food equation, which would be a meat, a starch, two veggies,
Mm-hmm.
a healthy fat, and a marinade or a seasoning or
Mm-hmm.
something. And so what you want to do if you're trying to create a recipe is you just list out all of the meats, all of the proteins that you can eat in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and just list those out. And then all the starches. Okay, so any starches that you would eat in your life that are suitable for you at this stage. Um, so for us, we're allergy free. So our starches don't look like the average American starches. So ours are, somewhere between average American and
Mm-hmm.
AIP. And then veggies, I mean, we have loads of
Yep.
veggies, healthy fats, and then seasonings, right? So you list out all of the things that your family can eat in each of those categories, and then you sort of see it like interchangeable things.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I'm at the store and I see, especially I do this with meat that's on clearance, I buy like as much as I can, and then I use that inexpensive meat to form my food equations to make my meals rather than seeing a recipe that I want and then just going out and getting it.
Mm-hmm.
I see what I've been able to buy inexpensively, and then I form meals around it. So an example would be that last night we had fish, and um actually that may not be the best example. Let me rephrase that. Okay, salsa chicken is like a big staple in our home.
Mm-hmm.
So I take chicken and use salsa and seasonings. Oh, you can't have salsa. Okay, that's not a good example for you. I forget about the nightshades. I've never lived without nightshades. I've lived without everything else many, many times
Mm-hmm.
and for years. So I have a lot of experience. I'm sorry
That's
about
okay.
that. Let me not use
No
that.
problem.
Okay. So um, if a recipe calls for flank
Mhm.
steak and flank steak's $8.99 a pound, which it is when it's not on
Yep.
sale, you take a look at the meat department and find something that's on sale for $2.99 or $3.99 or $1.99.
Mhm.
I'm now an experienced clearance meat shopper, and I don't pay over 99 cents for any meat
Wow.
ever. I I like wait, and I and when and you'll think I'm crazy, but when my freezer starts getting bare, I actually just start praying. I'm like, okay, I need meat. And I'm not even kidding. Meat will come on sale and I'll just fill it up and then but
Mhm.
if you, and you might be thinking, meat is never that cheap in
Mhm.
my city. If you asked 100 people in my city if meat is 99 cents or less, they would all say, no, it's never that cheap in our city. So you have to find the place that meat is cheap and you have to learn how to find it and then just fill your freezer with it. But anyway, that's another topic, which is my book does cover finding the cheapest sources for the food in your equation. So convenience food, as you mentioned, it's okay. I'll just keep going and ignore it. You mentioned convenience food as an important part of your diet because of your health
Mhm.
and your lifestyle. And it has to also be AIP, of course.
Mhm.
So finding convenience foods at the cheapest price would be a high value for you if you were trying to lower your food budget. And so um, I worked hard to find the cheapest places for me to find my convenience foods that meet our food values. And so I have a whole chapter on finding the cheapest foods that meet your food values. Um, but what I wanted to share with everyone here is if you want to learn more about how to cook without recipes, um, you can sign up to get my email list. And with it, you get the whole chapter, which I sent to Laura, on how to cook without recipes. And it has beautiful infographics that describe what I've been talking about today that will help you visualize how to take your food goals, your food values, turn them into an equation, and then turn that into dinner on Tuesday night.
It's awesome. I
Um,
love your charts and your graphs. Like it just made it
yeah,
so clear and it made me realize like that is kind of how I do a lot of my meals, but I
right?
keep going back to the same like chicken thighs and zucchini
Yeah,
and sweet potato. But if I had like this list and this graph like you show us how to do, I could come up with a lot
right.
more interesting things for my family, which is also kind of important to me too, that
It is.
that they like what we cook, or that yeah,
Yes,
if I had it planned out more like you show. So it's amazing. I
right.
love that chapter. That's everybody would benefit from that.
Yeah. And Danielle, we will post a link for you to sign up to get that
Yeah.
chapter. It is very helpful to visualize what I'm talking about. And I tried in a Facebook Live to show the charts, but they just showed up backwards
Yeah.
because I didn't understand mirror imaging. So I would show them to you, but it would be more
Hmm.
confusing. So instead, you get my face and then you can see the
Yeah.
charts later. Um, but the general concept is that you can mix and match them almost, I mean, not indefinitely, but if you take the time to just list out the the core things that you can mix and match and you can create a lot of meals. It's kind of like a minimalist wardrobe.
Hmm.
If you have 30 pieces of clothing that all work together, you can mix and match those to create a wardrobe that lasts you for 6 months and no one ever knows that you've been doing it with 30 pieces. Especially if you change your flavor profiles with your
Yep.
seasonings, that makes a big difference. Or maybe your sauces or those kinds of things. We're really big. What I usually do is I'll cook one meat for 5 meals, and then I'll turn it into a loaded baked potato or loaded sweet potato
Yep.
night. I'll turn it into a soup. I'll turn it into a salad. I'll turn it into a skillet, and then I'll put it in a taco. And so we've taken one meat, which I pre-cook usually on like a Sunday, and then I have the base of 5 meals. And so we kind of we kind of repeat taco, skillet, soup, salad.
Hmm.
What was the other one?
Yep.
Potato. or sweet potato. We do loaded sweet potatoes too. Um, and that to me gives my family enough variety. They don't really need more than
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So anyway, um, let's see. Okay, I've covered everything on my list. Do you have any questions for me, Laura, or anybody here have any questions that they wanted to ask me about how to cook without recipes?
This was really awesome. I love it because, like I said, it's kind of similar what I try to do, but not in
Right?
as organized of a way. So it's like I'm, looking at my grocery list thinking like, well, what am I going to cook for dinner? Okay, let's get some chicken thighs again. Let's get some pork chops again. Like,
Yeah.
okay, but what do I do with all this? But if I had it just listed out and planned out, like, oh my gosh, that would save so much time, make grocery shopping so much easier.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. And then, like you said, actually use the things on hand instead of it getting
Yeah.
shoved in the back of
Well, and
the refrigerator.
I yeah, I have a whole chapter that talks about how to cook one meat on like Sunday
Mhm.
and use that all week. And a lot of times I'll actually cook enough meat for 8 meals,
Mhm.
and I freeze 4 portions, and then I use those 4 portions because my middle of the week is busy.
Yep.
And I know yours is
Mhm.
too, and everyone here listening.
Mhm.
I It's a big deal to get food on the table, and especially if you're not feeling
Right.
well. So if you can batch prep when you have someone else home with you who's either helping with the kids or helping with the chopping, if you can batch prep and then just use those to build meals throughout the week, it is my midweek prep is under 30 minutes every night, because otherwise we just wouldn't
Right. Yep.
cook. And I remember not feeling well and not being able to chop or
Mhm.
be able to stand all the way through a meal prep.
Mhm.
And so having things that are prepped and ready that you can mix and match, and even pre-cooking sweet potatoes and having those ready
Mhm.
that you could throw together with pre-cooked chicken. Um, that's all simple choices like that, or maybe some butternut squash that your husband cubes for you on the weekend, because no way you're cubing butternut
No,
squash, right? I
right.
mean,
Exactly.
right, that's not happening.
Mhm.
Um, do you have an
I
Instapot?
do. I do. Hmm.
Okay. Have you figured out you can throw a whole spaghetti squash in there
No.
and not cut it?
No.
Yeah.
What?
So I was going to tell you this about
Uh-huh.
chopping. So spaghetti squash, all you have to do is just poke it like about six
Yeah.
times, which I think you could probably do even if your hands are really
Yeah.
bothering you, right? Just a
Yeah.
stab. Throw the whole thing in
Uh-huh.
and turn it on for 17 minutes, and then it's totally cooked, and then you cut it after it's cooked
Yeah. Wow.
and scoop all the seeds out. I know. It totally, so I don't have any cutting issues,
Mhm.
but I don't even feel safe cutting a spaghetti squash most of the time. I feel like I'm going to chop like my arm
Right.
off. Somebody's dying if I'm cutting open a
Yeah.
raw spaghetti squash. And so once I learned I could throw the whole thing in, it totally increased the number of times that I buy spaghetti squash now. So
Wow.
there
This
you
is
go.
awesome.
Yeah, 17 minutes. That's your friend.
Got it.
Because we eat a lot of spaghetti squash in our house. We love it.
Mhm.
Because even though yeah, we love it.
Cool.
Very yummy.
Cool.
Okay. Well, we will post the link to get the free chapter. And then how do you want to do the drawing?
Do you want to do it offline? Yeah, like
Yeah, that might
after
be
we get off.
easier.
So anybody who's been on live and who's commented, said hi, anything can be in the drawing.
Yep.
And we'll just post the winner afterwards. Does that work? Okay. And
Yeah,
if you haven't
that'll be
commented
perfect.
yet, do so really quickly so you can be in the drawing.
Right. So you
Yeah.
have time. And then whoever wins will be getting a copy of my book.
Yay.
You can choose either the ebook format or audio. Um, I just finished the audio recording. It's finished, but it isn't market
Okay.
ready. So it doesn't, but it's professional
Okay.
sounding. So just know that you're not getting like the if you want it in audio, but some people only do books in
Yeah.
audio now.
Yeah.
So they won't mind that it isn't completely finished. But you could choose that if you wanted. Just know that.
Awesome.
Um, so either form.
Yay, thank you.
They do
This
annoy.
has
You're
been
welcome.
amazing. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much. Oh,
having
you're
me.
welcome. And, thank you so much. You just gave such great information, and I think you shared it so clearly. And this is exactly what I see, like literally every single day, people posting in the group and on Instagram about like just, uh, like not only like what do I cook, like how do I make this easier? I don't have enough energy. I don't have
Yeah.
enough time. I hurt. How am I going to be able to make meals for myself? And this is just absolutely perfect. And I think can really help
Yeah.
a lot of people in our group. So thank you so much for getting on here and sharing. And I can't wait to read the whole book. I mean, I think it's going to be so helpful. And if anybody has any more
Yeah.
questions, just feel free to keep posting, and Shelly will just, type back and answer.
Definitely.
But thank you so much. This was incredible. I appreciate you
Thank you.
for sharing with everybody.
You have a
All right. Have a great day.
thank you.
Bye,
You have a good
guys.
day.